Beyond the Pillion is recorded on the traditional lands of the Kaurna people, and we would like to pay our respects to elders past and present. Welcome to Beyond the Pillion. My name is Kahiwa. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the chaotic one.
Welcome back. I'm Rach. I use they, them pronouns unless I do feel like using my pretty privilege for evil, in which case she, her is totally fine.
This week we have an absolute treat. I sat down with Amanda Phoenix from Peak Moto and Flying Solo Gear, and it was so good I couldn't choose anything to delete. So we have split it out over two parts.
Yeah, look, you guys are going to love this. So let's jump straight in. We're going to catch you on the other side to chat about all things Peak Moto, inclusive riding gear, and some hot tips for our height challenged friends out there. We'll see you soon.
So today I have a super exciting treat. I am joined by Amanda Phoenix from Peak Moto and Flying Solo Gear Company. Amanda describes herself as a quite introverted backpacker who had a yearning for adventure, who then through a motorcycle crash was inspired to design a simple way to keep hard objects from bothering the soft parts of our bodies. And with comfort in mind, she crafted a prototype of the discreet bum bag made of lightweight and durable materials. And just like that, the Flying Solo Gear Company was born in February 2020. And so together with the riding company, Flying Solo Gear introduced game-changing products like the Asphalt X backpack, the Octane leg bag, and the Tully waterproof tail bags, making life on the road a little bit more comfortable for fellow riders. And then in 2023, Amanda established Peak Moto to offer an inclusive shopping experience for women motorcyclists, both online and in person, selling gear not only from Flying Solo Gear Company, but also from other well-respected brands like Moto, Revit and Alpine Stars. And full disclosure, I am a very happy customer from Peak Moto multiple times. So lots of reasons why I am so excited to have you on the podcast and with us today. Amanda, welcome.
Oh, it is an honor and a privilege. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for your purchase the other week. Very appreciated. Lovely to see. So,
yeah, I'm very excited now, the proud owner of the Tully tail bags, as part of getting ready for ride over to Sheila's Shakedown. So just another, storage gear option available for me.
I'm really excited as well. No, this is really exciting. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. So Amanda, I'm kind of keen to hear a little bit more about you and share a bit more of your story with our listeners. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about what got you into riding.
Well, I've always been a rider at heart, I think. Never really been into cars, and like even as a little kid, like 5 years old, learning how to ride a push bike. And I'd always like pull the throttle going vroom, vroom, vroom. It was always in my home. And it just became like a way of life after I visited Hawaii for the first time. And I'm not sure if you know this, but in the USA, it's not necessarily illegal to not have a helmet. And so we hired, my partner at the time and I hired a couple of scooters, and we had one mirror between two scooters. And they're the most beaten up scooters ever. No helmet, no visor. And yeah, we took these scooters around this epic volcano at night, and that feeling of that warm Hawaiian breeze and this epic view of this volcano, kind of like a sunset, changed my life forever. I was like, I'm getting a two-wheel vehicle. I don't care what it is. And so at the time I was going through uni. So I went home to Vancouver, where I'm from, and put a down payment on a scooter. So a 50cc scooter. And I rode that to and from uni 5 years. So
wow, yeah.
Yeah. So I never, judged people on their scooters. I was very much a scooter rider, loved it. So practical. max speed 60 kilometers an hour. And then I did want to always ride motorbikes. So my first bike was a Ninja 250, and I bought it in total secret. So I kept the secret from my parents at the time for about a year before I accidentally parked too close to the handling pole. And my dad, who calls me Shorts, and he's like, Shorts, is that your bike? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, just be safe. And he just walked off. And I'm like, okay, it was
Okay.
as I thought. So yeah, so my bike life started there, pretty much in uni.
Yeah, nice. And so you've been riding for kind of a fair few years. What bikes do you have in the shed at the moment?
At the moment, I have a BMW S1 sport bike, and I have a Honda Grom, bright orange, like a go-kart. It's so cute, you know?
Still got the scooter vibes, hey? Little bike.
Absolutely, yeah, pit bike vibes. And I have a Husqvarna FE450, which is a enduro bike, like a dirt. Yeah. So those three, pride and joy. Yes.
Yeah, nice. They give you a fair few different options of the types of rides that you can do on a pretty regular basis as well. Lots of diversity there.
Love diversity. Like the Grom is more for like the inner city running errands rides.
Yep.
Or I run a few women's groups as well. And if we're leading a learner group, I take that bike out. For traveling or the bigger rides, I take the BMW. I'm actually trying to sell my Husqvarna dirt bike at the moment in favor of buying an adventure bike. So you're going to laugh, but I'm 5'1", so 155 centimeters. I actually measured this yesterday just to be sure that I'm not lying to anyone. And I'm in fact 5'1". And I've decided this year, as a New Year's resolution, that I'm not going to let height be an issue for riding bikes. And so I've decided to buy a BMW R1250 GS, which is like a truck, right? It's massive. It's an adventure bike.
In my mind, I'm thinking of quite a large bike.
It's a large bike. Yes. Yeah. So I don't know if you've seen Ewan McGregor and Charley Boorman's what is it called? Now it escapes me. They've gone around the world in every direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's really embarrassing that I can't remember the name of the movie. Right.
That's right.
now.
I'll find it and put it in the show notes. It'll be fine.
They've taken GSs around the world, and that's what I want to do someday. And I've figured,
Cool.
they're not cheap bikes, but you deserve some putting. So I'm putting the dirt bike money into that fund. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
You know.
That'd be awesome. And be great to be able to have a bike with more more power, more kind of structured, maybe a little bit more kind of stable, more support in like that kind of enduro adventure type of ride. I can imagine that'd be really helpful.
It will be very helpful, and ground clearance. I frequently found myself on the S1000 double R on a dirt road or gravel road, sometimes twisted, sometimes not, and it's not the best bike for that. It slaps and the handlebars slap against the tank and all that. It's not the best. So I'd love to be able to just ride and see a dirt road and be like confidently, let's do that one. Why not have the fuel range to come back and not
give it a go?
I get lost somewhere out there. So and figured it's time. I've been telling myself, oh, I'm too short to ride this bike. But at the end of the day, I just a better rider. So if that means being able to find the techniques that for me, for my stature, to ride these bikes, then that's my goal this year. Sorry.
Awesome. I know that's something a lot of women experience as a challenge kind of coming into riding, that a lot of bikes are built for people of a higher stature, and that the options when you are shorter, if you want to be able to have at least the balls of your feet on the ground, are a bit more limited. And so I think there are definitely skills to be able to ride bikes that are taller. I personally am still working out some of those. But I think that would be definitely someone be keen to hear a little bit more about how you go with that and what you're practicing and learning over the time.
Yeah, and you know what? I like what I'm finding in the women's community, especially, such good advice back and forth between the female riding community about being able to be short and ride like whatever bike you want, whether it be tall bike, heavy bike, short bike, whatever bike. Like if you're able to ride tall bikes as a short person, it's not like we look down on other people who can't. We're just at a different, the journey, right? I've been riding for 15 years and it's taken about that long to decide to ride a very tall bike. So, and I've ridden shorter bikes for more than half that time. And, and so, so I think, what people have been saying is correct in that you start, low enough that you have confidence. So you're not scared. You start light enough so that you can turn the thing and manage the thing without dropping it or losing your confidence, and then work your way up. So there's no shame in sticking with a small bike for ages until you build up that confidence. Some of the best riders I've seen have spent like a decade on 300cc bikes, and before, and now they're just beasting the bigger bikes. So not just about CC, like a sport bike, the weight is so high. This adventure bike, the GS, the weight is really, really low. I've ridden one. It's actually easier to get off the stand than my own bike, which is kilos lighter. So it's really about weight distribution, what works for you. The MT is really good. Your bike, such a well-balanced bike. But for example, as a sport bike rider, if I tried to ride someone else's Honda Rebel, I'd be so confused because my limbs are in all the respect to cruiser riders because I cannot balance that, I have no practice in that. So, as for being a shorter rider on tall bikes, I guess the number one thing, number one drill that helped me was, while it's still on the kickstand, if you're sitting on the bike, tap your left leg on the ground and then move and scoot your butt and your right leg's on the ground, and just do like 20 reps of that so that you can have muscle memory of where the ground is.
Yep.
And then get it off the kickstand so the bike is upright, and then do the same thing. So like reps, touching the ground on your left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. And the reasoning behind this is if you're at a stoplight, your kickstand's not going to be down, right? So the bike is going to be upright. And when the bike's upright, it's the lightest, right? So when the bike is totally like standing up, it's the lightest. And so if you're a shorter person, you're well practiced now to be able to scoot your bum so that you're to the ground without having the bike having to angle or lean. And so you don't risk dropping it because there is no weight to that bike now. You can manage your body. And I've learned this through dirt bike riding because even though I've lowered my dirt bike, it's so bloody tall anyway,
They are still quite tall bikes. Yeah. But that makes a lot of sense. The other thing around that kind of drill that makes sense to me or comes to mind for me is also getting that that memory, that body familiarity about like how far off the bike your butt needs to be able to confidently get the balls of your feet or your whole foot on the ground, and like so that that it is this far. And like on some bikes, I know a couple of ones that we've got in the shed that if I try and sit on them, like pretty much half of my butt is off so that I can get my foot down. And I think just building that sense of familiarity and comfort of, how much has to be up there while the bike is still upright, so that when you're at a stop sign or somewhere else, like you're not worried about it and not feeling like you then have to accidentally try and lane the bike, which adds in that weight, as you're saying. I think it's also a really good point there about different types of bikes, and I suppose even like different brands and models and stuff, where the weight sits in the bike is actually really important, not just the seat height. I know I've had bikes that are taller or heavier but don't feel as heavy or more as difficult to maneuver because of, the weight is in a different place on the bike, like either underneath you or forward you, or where that center of gravity is, I think makes a big difference. So I guess what I take away from that is, one, try a whole bunch of different bikes and don't be scared to try bikes that might be a little bit taller. And then two, that practice of where does my body feel comfortable actually balancing the bike and having feet on the ground. That's great. Thank you.
100%. And I reckon like another another myth that people have is that they have to have they have to have their feet flat on the ground. And, if you have a shorter inseam, that just isn't going to happen if depending on the type of bikes you want to ride. And so the average street bike, for example, like let's say it's maybe 800 millimeter seat height, 810, 820. And if you're a shorter rider, let's say 5'4" or something, it's almost impossible to have both your feet flat on the ground. And so you can ride for ages. And yeah, like if you have a shorter inseam, my inseam I've checked is 25 inches. Okay. Tiny little leg. All right. And there'd be whole rides where I just spend my whole my right leg on the peg. It never once touches the ground the entire ride ever.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't need to. So if you're a shorter rider, you can practice that left right drill. You're just fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need to flat foot. And once you're confident in being tippy toe on one leg on any bike, then yeah.
Yeah, I think I would very rarely have both feet flat on the ground. Even in the MT-07 that I lowered, I think I possibly can. I can't recall. But yeah, the only exception really is when you're trying to paddle walk and move the bike. And I've just worked out I actually don't like doing that. There are other ways to move the bike, and I just feel more confident. There was a video we made when we were doing the episode on different ways to move the bike, and I'm on an MT10 SP, which is taller than mine, even just without the lowering, and it's wider and it's heavier, and I'm trying to paddle walk even forwards or up a hill, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. It was quite entertaining.
Oh, and how tall are you?
Pardon?
How tall are you?
I'm 5'6".
Oh yeah,
so like 166. So not short, but shorter than most bikes are made for sure.
So,
yeah,
I've spoken to an industrial designer, and they said most things in the world are made for somebody who's like 5'8", 5'10".
Yeah,
the male.
Yeah.
So
the classics, the typical mythical, male body figure, I think is what they talk about designing most things for. So it would be nice as we get more women into riding and more gender diverse people and just more people various different flavors into riding. Hopefully that means that we eventually get motorcycle manufacturers making different types of bikes. But I think that's also one of the things that I really, really love about Peak Moto, the diversity of gear that you stock and always have done, and like that kind of ethos there as well. So I wondered maybe if you could tell us a little bit more about the story of how you started flying solo gear in Peak Moto. That would be a little bit of a teaser up top, but I'd love to hear a little bit more.
Well, I mean, you covered it really nicely earlier. But yeah, so flying solo, I was a backpacker. So I had moved from Canada to Australia, spent 3 months on a chicken farm, which is a whole nother story. And then when I came back to Melbourne, I know, right? Good grief. Yeah, I could write a book about that, those 3 months alone. But so I had a crash, like you said, and was quickly reminded that hard objects do not belong near your kidneys. And so I've borrowed a sewing machine, went to Spotlight, which is a craft store, and then I went to the $5 bin, and I found like $5 of polka dot tablecloth, and I'm like, this will do. I just need anything to get these phones away from my pockets. Away from the midsection. And just as well as I do that, like women's motorcycle jackets have these teeny pockets, right, in the front.
I don't know what they're supposed to fit because they don't fit anything I try to put in them.
Yeah, exactly, right? So and I was very much a person who just no backpack, minimalist, stick my phone in one pocket, stick my keys in the other. In a crash, I actually poked a hole straight through my leather jacket with those keys. So yeah, do not carry your keys in your pockets. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, sidetracking. Anyway, so with my limited skills of like, in year 10 where you do a home ec class and you learn generally how to use that was how much background I had in sewing and fashion design. So I made this square rectangle bum bag, which is because I couldn't sew an angle to save my life. And And I sewed a zipper on it and then made a belt, and then I was wearing it. And didn't have any friends at the time, but of the few people I did come across in my travels, people were like, "Oh, what's that? What is it? Oh, I'll make you one." They're like, "Sure,
Yeah.
great." And when I made them some with my friend, so my friend Amelia met at my house, my apartment. We had no furniture. I had no furniture. We were on the ground sewing these bum bags. And there's actually a picture of us sitting on the ground of my apartment with these 10 bum bags, and then we would just give them away. And after that, people were like, "Oh, this would be actually useful, like, when I travel or when I do that." We've sold a bum bag to a guy who was a lion dancer, a Chinese lion dancer, because he needed to have something around his waist when he's doing lion dances.
Yeah.
We started getting them produced, and I have had like no experience whatsoever in manufacturing. None. Okay. Is importing, but the thing is, like, I just did it, like, what else am I supposed to do with, if I'm new to the country, I don't really know anybody. I'm a very curious person at heart anyway. So, and I'm quite self-taught in other aspects of my life. So I was just like, yeah, I'll just make a ton of mistakes, learn from them.
Yep.
Flying Solo Gear Company was born. Yeah. Yeah, I'm like,
and I will say, definitely my bum bag is a far cry from polka dot fabric on a wonky angle. I use it pretty much every time I'm going out riding. Big fan. I think the great big zip, and it's waterproof, and it actually fits quite a lot. As someone who is not minimalist by nature, and can be very risk averse and is prone to packing all of the things that one might possibly need, but actually is not likely to. I've been very, very pleased with how much I can fit in my bag. I love it. It's great.
It had to do a design upgrade a few years ago, because when I first designed it, it was made for 2016 sized phones, and how the phones had gone bigger, so I had to make the design bigger. But yeah, so manufactured. But I mean, the whole brand of Flying Solo Gear Company, it was pretty much born in 12 hours, like a 12-hour very caffeinated stint in a cafe.
This is very entrepreneurial Shark Tank of you. It's quite exciting.
Have the notes from it. I had like scribbles of drawings, and you can see the transformation of that really ugly scribbles to the phoenix of what it is today. Yeah. And it was in one page about this big. Yeah. So I don't think people realize how fast Flying Solo went from like nothing to something. And it's still very small. Like, it's, it's not like a multi-million-dollar corporation or anything. It's still very much just me as a director. It's still very small. But anyway, January last year, I decided Flying Solo needs a home, proper home. That's not my garage, because people are coming to my garage to buy stuff. And I was just like, I at least need some storage, because as a designer manufacturer kind of company, you have to buy 500 things at the same time, right? So you have boxes of things, of stock, right? Yeah. And so I tried to find a storage unit, and for the same price as a storage unit in Melbourne, I could find a little office that people can actually go to. So I found a little office. It had stains everywhere, on the walls, on the carpet, on the and I was like, I'll take it. I was like, it's perfect. It was so cute. And so I went to sign the lease, and the landlord wasn't as cooperative as I wanted him to be. So I was like, you know what, I'll find somewhere else. And so bumped my budget up by about 50% and found like this cement hole in the wall. It had no running water, and it had it had no toilet, right? Air conditioning, not. And I was just like, I'll take that. So I signed the lease and had a big party, and, like 100 people came, and it was so good. And I was really actually proud of it. Went on Facebook Marketplace, found all of these free furniture, decked out this mini shop with free furniture. The front counter was it used to hold soy sauce in a sushi restaurant. It was free. Okay. Yeah. It's still in the, right? So I really had to make it work, because I didn't have as much money. So, so Flying Solo lived in this space in South Melbourne, this really concrete space, for about 5 months. And, the more interest there was in women's motorcycle gear, the more stock I had to stock. And motorcycle jackets are not small. They don't very easily. And so,
No.
yeah, so I had to really increase the storage space. So really, literally scrolling on Facebook, and this beautiful heritage building popped up also in South Melbourne, not far from the South Melbourne Market, which is a pretty iconic place.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, this is a dream come true. Jumped on that, and now we're here. So you can see the storeroom.
Cool.
Um, yeah, Peak Moto is the name of the shop. Yeah, and Flying is the name of the bag company. Yeah,
Yep.
it was mental.
Yeah, neat.
I know.
That is wild, and I'm waiting for the book slash movie version of that story too.
That happened a
Like,
year. Jesus
like
Christ.
how is that not a thing? How have you not done TEDx talks and similar about I don't know, entrepreneurship and manufacturing and overcoming obstacles and just doing it anyway kind of thing?
You know what? My daily obstacle is opening the store and being extroverted for 4 hours to 6 hours. And
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I can understand that.
yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And I
There's a
love,
reason why I do not work in retail anymore.
oh my God. And you know what? If I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it, but I love it.
Yeah.
So I do it. Yeah.
I get this sense from the people that I know who've also either gone to visit the shop or who also kind of are customers, that there's just a lot of really happy people knowing that a store like this exists. And you know, yes, there are other stores and there are other brands, but I think this one in particular, what I really like about Peak Moto as a brand is the variety of stock that you offer, like the different types of things, the different types of brands, and a lot of them are things with a really broad size range as well.
Yeah.
Like the Moto Girl brand is, I think, one of the most inclusive brands of motorcycle gear for women that I've come across.
Yeah.
And they are a brand that I will always kind of recommend. I think the quality is great, and yeah, knowing that almost anyone will be able to find something that fits is life changing, because that can be such a big barrier to getting into riding, being able to get appropriate gear without going into spirals of body dysmorphia or
Yeah.
anxiety, or maybe that's just me.
Well, 100%. And, and when I first opened up the shop, and my very first customers kind of peeked in, and they're like, "Hey, I just started riding. I'm not sure what gear to get, and I don't know if you have any for women." And I'm like, "This wool is for women," and the barriers just break down immediately. They're like,
Yeah.
"Finally, yes." And you know what? I'm not the first person to do this, and I won't be the last person to specialize in women's gear. There are people before me, and there will be people in the future, and that's what I want. I want more places for women to feel comfortable in motorcycle
Yeah.
in the industry. You're right in saying Motor Girl is one of the most inclusive brands out there. I fully back them, and we like Flying Solo is all about make good gear, be good people, and I'm all about small business, big heart, and the people that I work with, or the suppliers that I work with, are that. So, people think Motor Girl is absolutely massive, but it's really run by a very small team of women. The owner is a beautiful South African lady living in the UK called Ina. Her stepdaughter used to co-run it with her, and now she's going to have a baby, and now there's Sophia. So that we know each other, like one-on-one. It's not like a team of people, like a massive team of people.
Yeah.
It's very, very personal. Ina's a writer as well. She's ridden around, like, in various places around the world. She's also got years, like a decade of experience in fashion. And she's very sharp. Like, nothing gets past her. So she's been really good to deal with, and she takes on feedback as well. So that was just so important when starting Peak Moto, to see what suppliers I can work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could say the same thing about Revit. They're bigger, much bigger, in the EU. But the Australian rep, Ali, has just been the best person to deal with. Yeah. So
They
yeah.
look like they've just got such fun looking gear. Like, again,
Yeah.
I think gear that you can tell has been designed for women and people assigned female at birth, like there's just a different vibe to it than gear that looks like they took what was designed for men and changed the cut slightly and put on a pink option.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. And
Yeah.
and that's the thing, like if I wanted to just be another superstore, I would stock all the same things, like Danny is in stars, and just be another superstore. But the world doesn't need that. The world needs someone who will go out of their way to get your measurements and do it properly and have a real hard think about what these measurements mean on a person. Visualize this person, what their body type might be, and what size this person might be, so that they can feel confident right off the bat. And I don't always get it right. I do really think about trying to get it right, but that's the whole thing, the personal touch about it. So yeah.
I think, like you said, there's space for all sorts of different types of stores and shopping experiences.
Yep.
Just in the same way that there's diversity of people's budgets or types of gear that they're wanting, or their brand preferences and similar. And I think I personally am really excited about having an offering like Peak Moto in this space, for people who want that type of experience, and certainly I do, and I really like it. Hashtag not sponsored. Just for clarity. Just a fan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the motorcycle industry, at least up until like maybe 3 years ago, the women's size charts, like you said, were so narrow and just black and pink, and they size Australian 16, which is not a big size whatsoever. And there's a whole demographic of women getting into riding that are beyond that happen to be beyond that. There's shorter girls, or females at birth. There's taller as well. And very, very few brands cater to that. And if they do cater to that, then you rely on the retailers to stock it, and they don't necessarily because it's difficult to wait on something that is a size 28 tall for that person to come in. And so but that's what I do. I try to stock every single size, so that when that person comes in, I'm like, here you go, I'm ready. I'm ready for you. I've been waiting, right? Or 28 feet, right? Yeah.
Just that the broad range of like heights and shapes and ratios of bodies that I think women and gender diverse people have means you, in order to be able to meet those needs, you need to have a broader range of stock on hand, which can be challenging for some stores to kind of offer if they're trying to have something for absolutely everybody. That's going to take a lot of space. It's a lot of investment in your stock. That waiting for that one person who might be 28 petite could take a while for them to come. And so I think again it's so valuable having a space that can be for bit more focused in terms of the people that it's there to serve, which is really, really lovely to have that for the riding community. I'm very excited.
And another thing that people don't really think about, instead of just sheer bodies, like the size of things, so your tops or your bottoms, it's also, I guess, confirming your identity as well. So say if you're transitioning to female, and you tend to be taller, or you have a certain body shape, right? We would have gear to cater for that, right? Or if you're assigned female at birth, but you're transitioning to male, and you don't want to have something that says Moto Girl on it, right?
Yeah.
We also stock Moto Bull, but also short versions of all the male pants, just in case, right?
Yeah.
And so you can walk in and say, and you're like, genuinely, I don't want anything that says girl on it. And I'm like, that's fine. Not even on the inside tag, and that's totally fine. So
that's so wonderful. That's so affirming, I think, for a lot of people, who might not be well served from some of the the stores who are trying to cater for the mythical majority. And I'm also thinking there, you're talking about identity and affirming that through gear. You know, for some people, it's wanting to have gear that helps them feel more, feminine or femme in their riding, when a lot of that gear can be quite kind of masculine-ish or perceiving. And for others, they're like, I don't want anything that's girly or femme. I want something that's looser, but still cut for a typical kind of AFAB body. I think that's also really interesting intersection in terms of clothing and identity and riding, and feeling welcome and a part of the community, which is a really great point. Thank you for raising that too.
Well, and I've actually had someone share one of my posts because they've realized that I am a left-leaning, and I'm not left-leaning, I'm left, right? And I've said something I mentioned in the copy, female identifying, which I think is a bit more inclusive than just strictly female, and very supportive of the rainbow community. And anyway, this guy copied my post, like shared my post, and it says like, boycott Peak Moto. They're just woke, the woke agenda. And I'm just like, oh God. And it's just quite early on in Peak Moto. This is like a month in. It's like this thing that I'm going to face, and people can get a bit sensitive about that. But now I'll stick with my values, and I have like a rainbow sticker on my shop. I'm not going to move it. So yeah.
And I think the sense I get in situations like that, like it's not nice to be boycotted or called out or cancelled. That can be quite a traumatic experience, and be quite concerning as a business owner, because it can have absolute real ramifications. On the other hand, I'm wondering, was that a person who's likely ever going to be a customer in the first place?
You know what? I see it as like a self-cleansing soap. Like they've kind of just washed themselves out, and I was like, yay.
Yep. They have opted out, and that is okay.
And that's perfect. Yeah. So, save me some time.
Beyond the Pillion is a show pony production, brought to you by Kahiwa Sabaya and Ray Hosking, and supported by Women Moto, the online magazine for women motorcyclists. Go to womenmoto.com. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Beyond the Pillion. Drop a comment or send us a DM and let us know what you want to hear more about. If you liked this episode, please leave a review or tell a friend.